Pete McGuire from XM joining us here on the program. Pete, great to go and see you. What did you make of it? Because look, the market was all over the place, particularly in the bond market.
Absolutely, David. Good morning, David, and good morning, Cara. Yeah, it was certainly volatile, and that whole session, I think, surprised a lot of traders. We saw big moves, as we know, and it did surprise, and that's why it's so hard for analysts to really come up with a headline or a stick in the sand as far as what they think that number's going to be for an NFP, because it's so easy to get wrong, and you can get wrong big time. So I think they were forecasting 150, and it shot the lights out at 467. So that gives, I think, the traders a sense of surprise. US dollar came off. That's continued softness. We've got a big week as far as data points and, inflation reads and so on. So I think volatility to remain in February, and action for traders.
Yeah, so let's talk about that US dollar specifically. The Australian dollar trading against it around that 70 handle. Some of the reports that I've seen this morning have suggested it might push below that 70 cents once again.
Well, it may do, Cara. I mean, it's range bound, and it seems not to break that 69.8 sort of handle. What we've seen, I just made some notes. In the last month, we've seen 3 cents of movement. So about from a 69.8 to about a 72.8. So that gives traders an indication what sort of bandwidth we're trading, and it's volatile. So if you're on the right side, there's some wonderful opportunities out there, and these conditions I think will remain. It's a big week, as I mentioned, for data, and you could see a further softness for the Aussie. So there we go, and just keep your hands on the wheel and look, and lock your stops in, and it's boom time.
Let's talk oil, because of course hitting that all-important $90 a barrel mark. Are we going to see 100?
Yeah. Well, it spanked through there at 93, nearly 93 and a half. A Brent WTI 92 and a half. I spoke to the Mid East yesterday, and big Gulf traders, they're quite surprised by it. So there's the point there. Was I think it's 7-year highs, and it's very, very strongly bid up. So it's hard to get in the way of a bull market. We're up 30% in a month, or just before Christmas. So that's really a surprise impact. Do we hit 40%, so close to that $98, only $5 shy? It could well do it, Cara. I'd hate to think what that does to the man and the woman on the street as far as inflation and the cost of goods. So yeah, it's a very, very volatile time, and not a good time for consumers. Great if you're a producer or you need a new palace.
Peter, I want to ask you about individual stock names in the States. We saw some incredible volatility amongst some massive companies out there. Is that taking your interest at the moment as well?
Well, it is, David. I mean, you're seeing earnings, and I think everyone's got their mind as far as what we saw, with Meta last week, and that sell-off is just dramatic. And then some of the other stocks are just very, very choppy. So it's hard to get a real gauge as far as where we see value. Many traders are trading short term, as we know, for a matter of hours. So they're waiting for those numbers to drop, and taking advantage of those particular, with different instruments, of course, taking advantage. But if they're aftermarket calls and so on, that makes it a little bit difficult. But I think a big percentage of the market, or the traders, that is, retail, are certainly looking at the Nasdaq as a key instrument, and they're seeing that big volatility there. So that really demonstrates again what those particular stocks represent to something like the Nasdaq, and the opportunity to trade it not only in our time, but certainly global traders looking at it, and what impact it has naturally rolling across to the S&P and then to the Dow.
Pete, are those retail traders jumping on the bounce that we're seeing in crypto at the moment?
I think so. It's had a nice little bounce to the upside, so there's no shortage as far as interest out there, Cara. Will it continue? I wouldn't be surprised. Well, the volatility will certainly continue, but it's been pushed down so heavily that, I think no doubt it'll bounce. And I remember a trader used to tell me a story how Rene Rivkin used to describe it. God bless him, and you'd holding a container underwater, and after a couple of days it eventually needs some air, and it just gets so great and it pops to the upside. So that's probably what we've seen there, that pop to the upside. And again, you can't put a call on it, because it's just so choppy that just allows traders the opportunity to take advantage of these big moves.